To me, the whole world was right here. And this was home. And today, I have left home and we're at a friend's house to start recording a few more stories. And I think I would like to begin with the butchering of our pigs, which was a big event. And this was on most of the houses on Block Island. And I don't know how the ladies did it, but of course the men would come, and it involved gallons of hot water. And my father, who of course always named the pigs, had to leave the house because he couldn't bear to see them killed. Once they were killed, he came back to do the bad work, but he could not bear to see that. So some friend had to come in and do it for him, which was, amazing to me. But anyway, that's the way it was. Now, they had big hogsheads of boiling water in the carriage house, and that involved having a block and tackle with ropes to hoist these animals up and down after heads had been cut off. And they had put in this hot water, and then the bristles on their hide were scraped off with these, a hand like, you put your hand around the wooden part, and this was sort of a concave metal piece, and everybody had to scrape off these. That was the purpose of the hot water, to remove the bristles. So, of course, there was a lot of work, with two pigs. The pigs had to be cut up, and the ladies would prepare what they called a pluck dinner, which was liver and onions, potatoes, and a vegetable. And all these people ate outside, usually, unless it was really terrible weather, because we did this in January. And probably used many times, we did it inside. And that meant frying the liver that had just come from the newly butchered pigs, frying onions, boiling potatoes. Now, all of this on a wood stove, I have to tell you. So it was very difficult. No running water. Everything had to be carried. Gallons of water had to be carried out and heated in the carriage house before this started. Now, after the butchering, of course, and of course, many of the men who gathered, this was sort of a semi-party, so there was always some liquor, and people were feeling no pain by the time it came dinner time. Anyway, it was a very exciting time. I hated to see the pigs. I too had to leave the house when the pigs were butchered, but it was the work afterwards that I'm trying to impress on people. Today they go to a store and everything is packaged. You look at the meat and you say, I'll have so many pork chops, I'll have a tenderloin, I'll have do this, I'll do that. Well, that meant, in our case, that everything had to be cut up. Pork chops, the hams, the part that was going to be used for bacon. And that meant that bacon had to be smoked. Hams had to be put in brine and then smoked. So the work was endless. And the fat that was left over, my mother used to make soap. And I mean, we think about it now, she had to use ash and lye and several other things. And she would put that in a pasteboard box, just the bottom of it, and it would be put in there and put up in the attic where it was cold. And then you would cut pieces of that soap off. And she had a little metal thing that she put the soap in. And it opened like this. You put the soap in, you closed it, and a little catch came down. And when you had hot water, you just swished that in your basin, and that was your soap. But think of the work that was involved. And then, of course, there was the making of sausage, and even on the table in my kitchen now, where I sit to eat, I see those 4 little dots where the sausage maker was kept, and it was quite high. And these pieces of fat and meat, lean meat and fat meat and fat, were put in to make the sausage. And the people on the island were very jealous of their sausage recipes because each one thought his was the best. And so there was great competition. And I remember seeing my grandmother's diary, the sausage recipe written in there very carefully. So she would, be able to guard it with her life so that nobody else got it. And it meant a lot of giving away of meat, because there might be somebody in the neighborhood that didn't have pigs, and you could take meat to them or sausage or something, and it was a nice treat. But I wanted to just point out that it wasn't a thing that was over the day of the butchering. It was all the work. Hours and hours of work afterwards to take care of this. Then this sausage, I have to tell you, we had these casings. You know how sausage has a casing around it? And that was hard to get. And it had to be softened in water and taken care of carefully. And then the sausage was filled in there. And during wartime, we couldn't get the sausage liners, casings. And my mother made casings out of cotton. It didn't work very well, but they had to be put out in the crib, the corn crib, where one wall was not shingled so the air could get in there. And that's where we kept our bacon and sausage way up, hanging on hooks overhead. But the bacon, smoking of bacon and the smoking of hams went on for at least, 4 or 5 weeks. Big hogshead like this and slits down the side. And my father would have a slow fire going in there, and the hams were hung in there on a metal rod. And the fire was made with corn cobs and smoked for at least 2, 3, 4 weeks, very, very slow. So that was the backbreaking work of butchering, and that's what we ate until April, because we didn't have refrigeration. By April, we had finished up the pork, given away a lot, and then we turned to fish and shellfish. But I wanted to point out how much work that was. I mean, hours and hours and hours for everybody in the family.